Thanks, man. Love that shit since 1983.
I love pretty much everything Tom's done.
Yeah,
Just
he's,
such
he's pretty much a genius.
yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because when I first started writing to him, that's when the tape trading shit was going on.
Mhm.
And he was actually surprised because they didn't really get that many letters from the US yet, And they were still Hellhammer and like they were going through lineup changes and stuff. But once him and Martin Ain really got it together, then they really started taking off. But from the day I heard their demos, I thought they were incredible because I was listening to a lot of that stuff like Bathory and Venom, but Hellhammer had their own little thing.
Yeah, they totally did. I mean, it was almost non-musical in a way.
Pretty noisy.
Speaking
Yeah.
of non-musical, let's start the intro.
I'm trying to find it. All right, I got it. I'll be right back.
It's time for Red Salad Review with your hosts, Wayne Moon, Greg Narvo, and Lou Bass.
I'm sick of those puppets.
What?
Pretty good. Pretty
Nothing.
awesome.
Sick of the puppets. I'm going to make it look even worse for you now.
Awesome.
I'm going to give you an even bigger forehead. Welcome.
Five
to Rat
head.
Salad
Get it
Review.
right.
Welcome to Rat Salad Review. Today, we are finally joined by Katon from the band Hirax. Welcome to the show.
Metal
Thanks for
royalty.
having me.
We're not worthy.
Man, it's an honor to be here, guys. No, I mean, I think we've been trying to do something like this for 4 years, but
Yes.
the world got turned upside down. But I guess it's starting to right itself. So I'm glad that we're able to do this now, especially when there's so much stuff happening.
I know. Thank God, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And you just announced today you have a new EP coming out and a European tour, right?
Yeah. The tour's been kind of in the works even before the pandemic. I mean, we had Australia booked. We had a European thing that we were going to do where it was going to be pretty crazy. They were going to do a thing called like Headbangers Ball for Europe, and it was going to be Hirax, Violence, and Exciter.
Oh, wow.
And that was right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and everything got put on hold.
Yeah.
And a lot of things changed. I mean, even just financially, when they started throwing the budgets at us, how much it was going to cost the tour, we couldn't believe how much things had changed just in 4 years.
Oh yeah.
So it got way more expensive. Like even just for the airplanes, the fuel for those, the fuel for the mobile homes and all that stuff. So we had to rethink things, and then finally we were able to get everything together for this year, and we're finally playing Wacken, which we've been asked to do Wacken like 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And it's about time that we finally did that. But we're doing like a proper tour, almost 3 weeks, where we'll be all over from Germany to France to Poland to the Czech Republic, Austria, doing a pretty good run. We start the tour on August 1st with Exodus, and we've known those guys since 1984.
Right.
So it's kind of like just brothers meeting up on the road. But we're looking forward to it. And then the new EP's going to be out probably right around the beginning of this European tour. It's basically a limited release because the record's almost finished being mixed in Florida right now.
Mhm.
But we wanted to have something for the fans when we get on the road over there in Europe. So, and we're also doing some UK dates, which is awesome to go back to England because we have a very strong fan base in England.
Very cool. Very cool. No US dates?
Not yet. I mean, well, we have a few. One I found out yesterday, but it's so funny because since like the 80s, I was always one of those guys that just wanted to announce it whenever.
Yeah.
And now I've learned a lot over the years with these agents and publicists and stuff, which I'm still kind of not used to just because I come from the underground thing where it's like, fuck release dates, man. We just let shit get out there. But
Right.
we there's a show that we're going to be doing in Texas. I can't announce exactly where at in Texas, but we're going to do Texas early next year, 2025. We always do really well when we go through Texas. Texas is great.
Yeah.
And but this year we'll be doing San Francisco with Sodom, and we're doing a New York date with Sodom. So
Cool.
yeah, they're starting to pick up. I mean, I think it's kind of that way for everybody. I mean, after the pandemic, I don't know how technically how it is, like is it over or whatever, but everybody seems to be back out on the road, getting out there and playing concerts now. So
Yeah.
things are getting alive again, you know?
I mean, you don't have to go into venues anymore showing a jab card or, wearing a mask. So there is a bit more freedom to it. But
Yeah.
I'm going to venture and say New York date, probably Gramercy Theater. You don't have to say yes. I don't want to, I don't want you
Well,
to split it.
that one I can actually announce. It's at a place, I think it's called the Monarch.
Oh, in Brooklyn. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
the Brooklyn Monarch, and I know that it's us, Sodom, and Whiplash. So that should be a killer
Oh,
show.
wow.
Oh, is Joe Cangelosi back in the band?
I really don't know who's in the lineups, you know. Like, I mean, I when they give me the information, I usually just announce who's playing. I don't know who's in the band, because sometimes, as you know, even with Hirax, bands are crazy, man. You never know, and
Very fickle. Yeah.
they're like, well,
He's
I'd say it's more like a dysfunctional family. I mean,
yeah.
you got so many different personalities and juggling that, and then but I mean, it's funny thing about bands is when they're good, they're good. Everybody loves each other. It's like a freaking family, you
Right.
know. But I think when you have artists are just really creative and different people, so sometimes we don't always see eye to eye, but it's kind of part of the business. You learn that. I mean, you look at any major band and they've been through some shit, you know.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter who they are. I mean, bands that you think are like bulletproof, there's always something that sooner or later that happens. It's just the longer you're together, some bands, are brothers. I mean, that's probably why Van Halen, Eddie and his brother Alex each other, but
Mm.
but that was a different circumstance. But when you're not really total blood, sometimes things, touring, going on the road is not easy. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you really get tested, and it either makes you stronger, or some bands it destroys,
Mm.
And
Yeah,
that's why I
definitely.
say transparency is not always a good thing.
No, I mean, some guys, it's funny with musicians, especially metal guys, they act really tough, but they're the most sensitive bastards you'll ever meet.
Ain't that the
So
truth?
it's totally true. Like, I mean, it's funny. I think the book always makes us look scarier than we really are, the
Oh,
cover,
yeah. Yeah.
But on the inside, most musicians are really freaking sensitive. I mean, I can be honest about that. I'm sensitive too, but you also have to grow a little bit of thick skin as well, because it's almost like well, it's a marriage. It's a
Mm.
freaking marriage, and like, you just got to learn to compromise, and sometimes bands can't. But for me, it's more about the fans. So whether there's compromise or not, I always want to continue on, because the fans, man, they just want it. They want the music. They don't want the drama.
Right.
Which actually brings me to a question I have for you, and I hope you can answer it if you can, about the new album.
Yeah.
Speaking of lineup changes and all that, because listening to the EP and all, I love this lineup of Hirax. You guys are very, very tight, but still with that crossover, that in your face, that Ruthie's in fury,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got the
But
message, man.
I saw a demo cassette that
Yeah.
had Warlord's Command on it. Is
Yeah.
that really being re-recorded? Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing against Raging Violence. Love the album, but the current lineup is much, much tighter, much more like corner, like precise. And I'm very excited to hear you guys do that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I mean, I always try to look at it this way, like, yes, the legendary stuff, I get that, but also bands grow, and if you play long enough, well, some bands suck after a while too. That happens too. But I think if you play long enough and you're still hungry, like for me, I still approach it like I did in the 80s, just that I've learned how to play a bit better, and I, look at musicians a little bit differently, and I always try to find guys that can help take it to another level. I think that when you have a bit of a legacy, you really have to remember the fan base. They don't, man, metal people are brutal. They are
Mhm.
the most brutal critics on the planet, more than any other genre.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's kind of what makes it metal, is that we're honest to a fault, to where it almost hurts. So you really, when you're making new records, you got to keep that in mind, that the fans are not going to go light on you. They never do. And I believe in that, to be honest with you, because I'm the same way. All the bands that I love, you can look at bands over the years. Like, I think one of you guys is wearing a Kiss shirt.
That's me.
Creatures of the Night.
Yeah.
That record was fantastic. To me, that was like a comeback record.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so some bands can do it, here and there. Like even with Kiss, I like Psycho Circus. I thought that song was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But there's some bands, they falter too, but you got to keep in mind the fan base. So for us, Hyrax, the new record is the newest record in 10 years. It's been 10 years since our last record. We knew that people were really going to be gunning for us on this, like really paying attention to what we're doing. I think that what's really good about the record, is we didn't really think about radio play. We just thought about putting out the most brutal stuff that we could do, remembering the fan base. Because when we travel, dude, like our fan base is so brutally honest. And like I was in Poland on a tour, and there was a fan. He loved us, but he was being honest about certain pieces of the band, and I really appreciated and respected, even though some of it did hurt.
Mm.
But I think when you're in this business, you've got to realize that's part of the game. But like back to this record, we just went all out, and we wrote the songs in my living room basically during most of the pandemic. We got back to the old school. We just had a guitar and an amp in a living room and just would go over riffs and put structures together. And then some of the songs, like there's a song on the record called Revenant. We really worked hard on that song. We had to rip it apart like it was a car engine. Some days we go home and listen to the demos and be like, it sounded good. Then we come back and say we hated it. So, but it was one of those songs that when I look at it now, I'm so glad we did all that, because it turned out really good. It's probably the most epic track on the record. But there's also a lot of stuff that just is about ripping people's faces off. Like there's a song on there called Drill into the Brain.
Mm.
That'll probably be the opening track. And there's another song at the end of the new 4-song EP that we're putting out called, so they're so new, I got to think about this. But it's called Relentless. And that song was actually written when we were in South America. We were at a hotel. Hirax and DRI were on the road together, and there was a riot outside of our hotel to where the police wouldn't even let us leave the hotel. So we
Wow.
ended up we wrote a song about it, because it wasn't safe for us to leave, and there were water cannon tanks driving down the streets, spraying people up against walls. It was crazy. We actually went
Wow.
out to check it out, but then they're like, "You guys got to get back in." And then we had metal gates that closed up the hotel. It was pretty for us, because we're not used to seeing shit like that.
Right.
So a lot of the experiences on even the new record are from road trips, or us traveling around the world. But I really feel strong and proud about this new record. I mean, obviously, when bands do new records, they always hype them. I'm
Mm.
not really going to do too much of that. I really want it to be where people hear the record and then they give us their feedback, because you can toot your horn all day about your music, but it really, at the end of the day, it's about the fans hearing it and then giving their feedback, whether it's good or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but one thing real quick. The
Hmm.
lineups, those do
That's
change.
good.
Even with this record, there was some changes, but it was for good reason, because some of the guys have other priorities, or they got other bands that they work with too. With us, we're such a hungry band, and the lineup that we have that's going to be out there promoting this record is definitely up for the challenge to be able to recreate these songs live, as well as the old catalog of songs that we still play live, because a lot of those songs are songs that we have to play, like Bombs of Death from the
Yeah.
first album and stuff like that. But we
Mhm.
did re-record one song from Raging Violence, and that was Warlord's Command, and I'm really excited for people to hear.
This is the album cover anyway. Faster Than Death. Who did the artwork? Because this is a really, really nice looking artwork.
Yeah,
on that.
Thomas from Brazil You know, it's crazy. I'm always trying to pronounce names correctly, and I sent him a message in Brazil this morning because I was like, I gotta be able to pronounce your name correctly, man. But Thomas from Brazil, I'm gonna actually pull it up right now. This is kind of untraditional, but let's see. I don't know if you guys can hear this.
No, no, it cuts out.
Pinheiro. He's from Brazil, but they speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
Pinheiro, Thomas Pinheiro, and
Okay.
the great thing about even like what we always try to do with our band is give back to the scene that we come from. I mean, there's a lot of famous artists that we've worked with in the past. Pushead, he did our first album. We had another guy named Mad Mark Rude. And a lot of those guys did, you know, once people really do the research, they find out who they work with. And obviously, Pushead worked with a lot of people, but Mad Mark Rude also worked with bands like the Misfits and 7 Seconds. You know, we've always had a little bit of, well, not a little bit, but a big attachment to the crossover scene, you know.
Yeah.
But also, we worked with, even on the last record, you know, the artist was pretty famous. But then we were like, hey, this guy, during the pandemic, what happened was with Thomas Pinheiro was drawing for us, and he would just send art to us. And it almost like kept our spirits up because we were on lockdown. You know,
Mhm.
there was a time when there was a curfew and we
Right.
couldn't even leave the house. I mean, it's going to be crazy to tell people this 10 or 20 years from now.
Yeah.
But we were actually, it was like being in a concentration camp, but being inside your house.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
this guy would send us artwork. He would send us.
I would have
luckily-
said one step away from Mad Max. I would have said maybe not
Yeah.
the concentration.
Yeah.
All we were not doing was killing each other for gasoline. That's it.
No, you know, you're right. I mean, it was so depressing. I mean, I don't think I'm the only one that could say this, but it was pretty depressing. Like going to the grocery store and people standing, you know, not that I had a problem with it, but I'm just saying when you're standing whatever feet apart and wearing a mask and you can't tell if people are angry or happy or
Right,
what,
it was-
you know, and fighting over toilet paper and shit like that. Like it was ridiculous. But we had this artist from Brazil who was sending us artwork and it was like uplifting us as we were writing the record. And after a while, I thought to myself, this guy is so awesome. We should use him for the new record. You know, so this EP, he did the artwork for that, but there's also a different cover for the full length. The EP is basically for the tour. And we just wanted to make sure we had something new for the tour. But the new record will be out probably a little bit after the tour. 9 songs total mixed and the thing that's crazy that a lot of people don't know, the EP that we're doing for the tour was mixed by Bill Matoyer, who I've worked with for basically 40 years, and he did a lot of great stuff. Armored Saint, Slayer, Sarith Ungol, the list goes, Sacred Right, the list goes on and on. But we had a problem with that to where the process wasn't fast enough because like you start getting to where people have due dates. Like I don't think a lot of the fans realize there's due dates. Things have to be turned into the distributors. There's the process of manufacturing the vinyl and the cassettes. I mean, we do all that now. A lot of people don't still do that, but we do cassette, vinyl, and CD. So all these things have to be turned in, but we wanted to speed up the process. And then we got lucky and we found another producer who could get it done. But we also wanted to preserve the raw tracks that Bill Matoyer did too, because it was like, this is a bit of history. I mean, I've worked with the guy for so long, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to have some rare tracks that he mixed as well as the new producer. And we're going to do an announcement. That's what's funny for me to actually say that we're going to do a press release for the guy who's mixing the record, because I can't say yet, but I can tell you this, every metalhead has some of his records in their collection. So we are so stoked to have this guy come on board to finish the mix on this record. I mean, I think people are going to love what Bill did as it is, but this is like the cherry on the top of the ice cream. This guy is just freaking amazing. And he had been keeping an eye on us for years, and I just didn't realize that he would be interested in working with us, but I reached out to him and he said yes. And so yeah, it's gonna be so great. I can't wait to tell you guys who it is. I'll promise you that I make sure that I'll let you guys know who's mixing the record when I can announce it.
All right, awesome. I can't wait because I haven't heard these new songs yet. I haven't been on my computer. I've been busy all day, but so I've been anxiously waiting to hear it. Am I allowed to play a song on my radio
Yeah,
show
yeah.
later?
The
All
thing
right.
is, I mean, I still want to keep it where we came from. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get that there's all this fancy, promotion and press releases and demos and promo copies and stuff. But for us, we started out with cassettes, man. That's
right.
that's where we came from. And even with guys like you, we would give stuff to our friends and people that were helping push the band, and I still want to stay true to that. So if
Yeah,
you got the new 4-track, one of those tracks at least you should play during the show.
all right, all right. Yeah, I got a show at 9 o'clock. Everybody watching this 9 o'clock, freeworld.fm, and I will play a new Hirax song in there.
Cool.
Recommend
Very
it.
cool, very cool.
I miss
Um,
cassettes. Life was so much simpler then.
I've been buying cassettes again, just for the hell of
Yeah,
it.
I
know
don't even
Greg
have a
hates them, but-
cassette player anymore.
Yes, I do. I have it's right here.
Well, the thing that's cool is they're cheap now. Like, and also if you go out like me, I'm a maniac. I'll go to thrift stores and all that kind of shit. Even
Oh, yeah, me too.
like we have a lot of swap meets here in California, so you can go to swap meets and find them. I suggest looking for dual decks that way. Also, you can record tapes and stuff like that. But
Mm.
they're still great. They've kind of made a comeback. So I still find like Scorpions in trance cassettes and UFO cassettes and stuff like that. So I love it. But
Yeah, all the time.
I think all formats they matter, even MP3s. I think every format matters. If it can play music, I listen to everything. I have a Nano. I still listen to music
Really?
somewhere around here. Let's see.
I only have these 2 records, and it's enough to make me want to buy a Bluetooth record player. Thank you, Greg.
Those are awesome records, by the way.
Yes, Mama's voice.
Yeah, this is my Nano right here.
Oh, wow.
I actually still use this thing.
Oh dear God on high.
Surprised it still works. How do you plug it in?
Yeah.
How do you charge it?
Yeah, it still works. But like I said, any format is cool. And to me, it's about getting the music out there. Obviously, if it was about the money, I wouldn't still be doing this shit. It's about the music. And I think that, once you get the music out there, it takes a form of its own with the fans. I mean, they do whatever they want with it. They can put it on cassette, they can make an MP3, a lot of people actually burn stuff still.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm all for it.
I think that's
Cool.
the beauty of being a musician today. It's that, you can work a full-time job, find the time to, write the music that you want to write without the pressure of like bigwig people telling you what to write, how to write, who to write with, who to have you produce, and this and that. There's a lot of freedom, I think, that comes with being a musician. But again, there's also that risk, that lack of return of investment. But I still think that it's a greater reward being able to express yourself the way you want.
I love it. I mean, I've done both. I've done all the ways you can do it. We were on a label, it was a pretty big label, but you start realizing sometimes it's better to be on a smaller label, so you're the big fish, as opposed to being on a giant label where you're the small fish. Like we were on the same label with Whitesnake. That was not a good combination for us because they got all the promotion, they got all the money, because they're a big radio band. For us, we got to think more about grassroots, because the kids that go into the record stores and ask the record clerk at the counter, like, hey, do you have the new Hirax record? We got to think about them. It's not about the radio. I mean, yeah, we get played on the radio, but that's not something that's on our radar. We don't think about that. We just make records.
Yeah. Here's something I got at a yard sale. Hirax.
That's awesome.
Hate, Fear, and Power. A yard sale.
That's
it was
awesome,
in a
man.
box. I was like, oh my God.
1986.
Yeah, I was so excited to get that in a box. It was a bunch of random other cassettes too. And I'm like, oh my God, that's really cool. So,
I love those kinds of stories, man. That's what it's all about. Like,
yeah, I go yard sale all the time. That's where I find
Yeah.
all the good stuff. We don't
I
have
do
the
not-
swap meets and flea market things here anymore. So I got to go.
Well,
yard sales.
you
The
do
swap meets
have,
once in a while, but not the flea markets.
there is that monthly thing that happens in Wantagh by Mulcahy's, that monthly record thing, that the one that you told me about, Wayne.
Where are you guys exactly at?
Me and Lou are on Long Island, and Greg is
Okay.
in Minnesota.
Okay. Awesome. I've been out to all those areas. Even Minnesota is underrated. There's certain parts of Minnesota that are awesome.
The rave.
Yeah, I remember that place. We played there back in like 2016 or something, or 15. It's been a while. We need to get back out there.
Yeah, definitely. Is this is the new EP going to be available on CD, or is it just going to be on the limited record?
It's going to be a limited vinyl. What's great, we chose a label that's in the Czech Republic because
Hmm.
we've played the Czech Republic, and believe it or not, it's like playing South America. It's insane. Every time we play there, like there's no rules. There's like the security guards are stage diving. It's nuts. But so we chose a label there, and they're like fans, just like all of us. Like everybody in this chat right now, it's like you look behind us, we got our collection proudly displayed, or
Oh
not.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, or there's a dungeon full of your records somewhere. But we chose these guys that were such fans that they're doing like this amazing package. It's going to be a gatefold 7-inch.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be 500 made, and they sent me a message. What color do you? I go, I want all the records on color vinyl. Like don't get me wrong, I love black vinyl. That's cool. But when you're doing a special 7-inch, that's a gatefold. I think the only way to be doing that is doing it color wax. But
Yeah.
the record, once we do the full record with all the tracks on it,
Hmm.
it's going to be just as fabulous. Like it's going to be a gatefold record because I want it to be like a book where when you open it up, you actually can sit back and read the liner notes and find out the stories. Like even doing this record was the hardest record I've ever done for
Really.
Hirax ever. It was a work of slavery, man. Like we busted our asses from the writing, from the conceptual part, all the way through the recording and going into the studio. The whole band worked really, really hard.
Is there a
Uh,
reason why this one was harder to work on? Because maybe you're working with new people, or
Well, we worked with people we hadn't worked before with in a
Hmm.
studio, and the studio wasn't really prepared for us. I think they had done mostly like vocal stuff and not a loud metal band.
Yeah.
And so we loaded in, and I think we were a little much for them, but it ended up working out. I mean, we got through it. I'm actually proud of the musicians because they really worked their asses off when it wasn't easy. Like you should be able to run through the tracks. Most people, when they record, they like to be fresh and go through the tracks maybe 3 times. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but really, if you go in prepared and you've done your pre prep work and got your songs really tight,
Yeah.
which we did, but we had to run through them a little bit more than I would have liked to have. I like to kind of get the freshest takes you can get. Some
Hmm.
of them were like, well, we went through the songs 20 to 25 times minimum.
Wow.
And that especially on a drummer, that starts to be taxing.
Oh yeah.
But I think that if you catch fresh, there's a lot of lightning in that. Like I think the best records normally are done where they're really prepared and they get them down real quick. But that didn't really affect us. I mean, I think what it did is just made us really make sure the stuff was tight. The songs are really tight. Pretty powerful. Like I mean, that's this record. Like I said, I really can't wait for people to hear it because I think they're gonna have their own interpretation of it. I mean, I've heard it so many times. I don't know how heavy it is now because it's like almost where it's just like it's in the back of my head. But I
Yeah.
kind of like to see people listen to it to get their take on it. But it's just a lot of work, and but we put all our heart into it. Like we really knew that this was a record that had to stand up against a lot of other records. I mean, there's a lot of great bands right now releasing records, so you can't put out a half-ass record.
Right. Yeah. Greg, I think I cut you off before. Did you say something?
I was, but I lost my
You
train of
forgot.
thought.
No.
But with what Katon said there, I think one of the best things about Hirax is you guys never put out a record when you weren't ready, and that was really cool because it's always been worth the wait and the high quality.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
I think a lot of bands rush that, and like that's kind of a problem because you're not really sure, and you're sometimes even just throwing shit against the wall. And like I said, I'm a fan of music too. Like like seeing all you guys' stuff like Venom, fucking love Venom. But I think that you got to be careful when you've established yourself. And like I said, metal fans are relentless and brutal. Like
oh,
they like I mean, I don't remember if you guys remember years ago, I think it was Morbid Angel released this record that they basically got brutalized over. I mean, I felt bad for them. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I don't
oh, I
know.
remember it. I didn't like the album, but yeah, people were really going at Trey specifically
Yeah, so
hard.
I always try to remember that that you don't want to make those kind of mistakes. I think that, there are a lot of bands, if you look at their career, there's certain parts. So like you said, we try not to do a record until we're really ready to do it. And even though, I wish we had more records out, because one of our biggest problems is like a lot of the bands that we came up with, they have like 18 records.
Yeah.
This is our sixth studio record, but I still think that quality matters over quantity. But
Yeah.
like I said, when you look at bands like Testament or Annihilator from Canada, they have like at least 18 or 20 records. So that
Yeah.
does matter as well. But I don't think it's nothing to be ashamed of. I think, like I said, quality matters the most. And at the end of the day, I think that that's what matters.
Is there a reason why you didn't get to release albums more sooner than you
Well,
had?
we broke up for a while, some years we weren't even active. And for me, I kind of needed to learn more about the music business anyways, because there's a lot. Like even now, and I've been doing this a long time, but like in the last month, I've realized that you can't even be a half-asser anymore. Like you get, like in the old days, you could get hammered, blow off interviews, blow off, just getting stuff done. And now you really have to make stuff happen because the internet and people are on at different times. I'm dealing with people in England and the Czech Republic. I'm in bed a lot of the times and I'm still working on stuff. So, my wife is like, will you turn off your damn phone? But it's like, I'm communicating with people that are up when I'm going to sleep in the Czech Republic or England. Like I did an interview for Metal Hammer recently, and the guy was apologizing to me because he didn't realize that he had me up at 3 a.m.
Wow.
But on his time, it was like 10 o'clock, 10
Right.
in the morning. And I said, well, no big deal, just because I really do care about the music that much. So you really got to put a lot of energy into this or you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
You can't just be like where you sleep all day. You got to actually get up and work and get back to people. I mean, there's people constantly writing to us for interviews, and I try to get better at that because I think everybody matters. They want to know stuff about your band. You should be honored to talk to them.
Yeah. Hey, it took us 4 years.
Yeah. Well, it also helps because
Hey.
like you guys were saying, we're running our own stuff, which I'm proud of. Like we don't need to have a big label, even though that probably is a good thing too, but we still get to do things on our own terms,
Yeah. Yeah, me and Lou have a band, and we were on a label at one point, and things
label.
went south. Yeah, exactly.
Well, dude, it's a lot more shit than people realize. Like there's some crap, and most bands, what happens is they get better after they've been on a label to know what they don't want to deal with.
Well, the situation with that, I mean, it's a year later, Wayne. I think we could talk about it. They were a subsidiary of a distributor through Sony. Like it's Slip Trick Records, or as I call them, Suck Dick Records.
This guy's got balls.
Yep. And through the Orchard, through Sony. And what they do is, they try to sweeten the pot with you. And I don't care if I'm.
Oh, they heard you and they blocked.
Yeah, they just muted your ass.
You talk bad about us, we delete you.
No, I get it. Like it's almost a double-edged sword because when you stand up for yourself, then you get a bad name as being a dick but people they don't know the other side of it.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only problem. And you don't have time to explain to everybody, well, the reason we're in a fight with the label is because maybe they didn't do something they said they were going to do.
Well, they lied is what they did. I mean, the whole bot thing just turned us off. We're like, listen, if people like us or hate us, then let them hate us because they hate us and like us because they like us. Don't fudge the numbers around. And we got our money back. And I think, we got the rights back to our music, but it made me and Wayne really just want to do everything independently.
Yeah. Well, you know what I've learned? Fuck all that shit. Like, you should always own your music, no matter what you sign, because, dude, you're the ones who wrote it. Exactly. You're the ones out there, playing it. The label's not out there playing your music for you. They're not touring in the bus where it's hotter than shit and you're going through Italy in the summertime. Or even, dude, we were going through the Swiss Alps. And I, because I'm from California, so I thought, won't it be cold? No, it was hotter than shit.
Really?
We had bought a bunch of, this is a funny story. We bought a bunch of chocolate because we were in Switzerland. So we thought, let's buy chocolate. That shit melted. All right. Because that's how hot it was in the tour bus. The only ones who had leather jackets on were the guys from Raven. I thought they were insane. I'm like, we're in this weather. And I look over and John and Mark are wearing leather jackets.
No, they're just British. It's raining all the time, so it's cold. So they
I guess. But I'm just saying, I think you should always own your rights. I don't even understand how that can be that these labels, I mean, I guess that's old mafia business.
it's mafia because you remember Victory Records, right? Like
Yeah.
they set a precedent for other indie labels in the late 90s and in the 2000s where it's like the label owned your publishing, they owned the rights to the music, they owned this and that, and they'll pay for you to like be in magazines and this and that, but then you had to, whatever you made from tour, you had to pay it back plus interest.
Yeah.
And that was a label deal that, not Victory, a smaller one, but in the early 2000s, that option was open. Then I read this, I'm like, I'd make more money working part-time at McDonald's. Thanks, but no thanks. I want to own my music.
No, I get it. But the thing is, like, most people don't have the balls. Luckily we do, but a lot
That's
of people
awesome.
have the balls to stand on their own 2 feet and do the hard work. Because, like, seriously, most bands, there's one or two guys that do the work. I'm not trying to talk shit, but the other guys just kind of take the ride, or they just complain when the other two guys or one guy is up all night doing, press or sending out demos or getting the tapes turned in. I mean, there's so much shit that has to be done. There's artwork, there's layouts, there's labels that go on the vinyl. Like this morning, I was up looking at all that stuff. Like this record, even this EP that's coming out, I'm looking at I had to make sure they spelt names correctly because they spelt our bass player's name wrong. So then I had to write back to the Czech Republic and say, can you spell our bass player? And I had to send them the correct spelling. Like there's little shit like that. There's even tour dates. One of the tour dates was wrong. So there's all these little minute things that have to be gone over so many times. But like I said, when I'm holding the records in my hand, finally, I'll be happy. But not everybody wants that job. A lot of guys can sit back and complain, be in the band, and say, "Well, where's the records?" But they don't know how much work really goes into it.
Yeah, that's a lot of my ex-bandmates. By the way, I really want to hijack Katon's room. I mean, he's got the Strangers in the Night poster back there.
That's not Paul Stanley though. Is that what is that? What is that a picture of?
That looks like a Paul Stanley action figure type thing.
Oh, those things are insane. Okay, back to the going to swap meets and being a freak. Me and my wife were at a swap meet, and I saw under this table, like they didn't even have them out. There's a bunch of stuff piled on these boxes, these Kiss boxes, and I'm like, "Hey, can I see those boxes?" They're like, "Sure." And I get over and there's the whole set. It's Paul, Gene, Ace, and Peter. And it's their bust. They're half from the waist up bust of each band member. And they're numbered. And they have plaques on the back of the year that they came out. And I'm like, holy shit. And each box says $150 on each of them. But I'm like, so hey, let's make a deal here, buddy, because he's acting like they're trash anyways.
All right.
So I think I spent that price that would be one of them on all of them.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so luckily I had a few band members with me and my wife, and so each one of us had to carry one out of the swap meet because they were so big in these boxes.
Wow.
Now I look back on it, it's a great story, but it's another one of those things, even though my wife's home, she'll probably yell at me, but she was like, you got to buy more of this Kiss crap. And I'm like, yeah. And then she was kind of giving me a little bit of shit, but then we went to Japan years later and I saw the same bust in a record store in Japan. I go, honey, look at the price. And she's like, okay, you're not stupid. Because the price was ridiculous in Japan, but
I can imagine.
much like you guys, I'm a huge Kiss fan, especially the 70s shit. Like, fuck, it doesn't get any better for me. Everybody has their eras, but like right around 74 through 78, I lose my mind for that.
Oh,
band.
yeah. Yeah, we just did our Kiss from worst to best shows. What do you got in your hand there?
I was gonna say my wife forgives me for my Funko Pop collection.
Oh. That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's almost like they know when they married us we're still children, so
Yeah.
they
Oh yeah.
they put up with a little bit of that crap. But I think that's kind of the thing they like about us because we don't take ourselves too serious, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something good to be said about a woman that can put up with a child who's her husband.
My wife never comes down in this room. If she did, I don't know what the hell would happen down here.
That's
She doesn't
funny.
know anything that's down here.
I
Yeah,
can't believe the old
but I
Miko
like
kiss doll
those.
there.
When you
Migo.
talk to other metal people, there's always something that you see in their collection. Like I think that's where there's that camaraderie. You
Yeah.
know, just we all love music, but I also know that we can't all have everything. So I love seeing other people's collections because there's always one I'm like, damn, where'd you get that? You know?
Oh yeah, all the time. And
Yeah,
just
Greg has
just like
the-
the Kiss stuff. It's like every time you see a Kiss thing, it's like you feel like you got to buy it, but you have like 1,000 other Kiss things. And why do you need that one? You know,
Well,
it's
the
like,
problem,
you
the
can't
problem
stop.
Yeah, but
Kiss is the worst because they're so damn good at their shit. So like
Right,
yeah,
all of us
Yeah,
own.
that's
It's almost like you own
No.
stake in the band.
right, right.
Greg, do you have all the original Miko dolls?
yeah, I got all 4 of them.
Oh wow.
Holy,
I just,
holy
I just
shit.
grabbed Paul because he was closest. But yeah, yard sale. I was like, $100. Yeah, I'll take them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta show you something since you guys are. This is kind of taking a different tone with the interview, but
That's
all right,
okay.
that's okay.
you
That's what
guys
this show
collect
is.
stuff. These bastards. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, yep. ACDC, yeah.
Okay, these are called blow-ups. All right.
All right.
The crazy thing is there's an Angus and there's a Brian Johnson. Too bad there's not a Bond.
Yeah.
But the real thing I want you guys, because I know you guys are collectors, look up blow-ups, and there's 4 Kiss ones. I haven't even found them yet, but there's
All right.
4 of these blow-ups that are each guy from Kiss. So
Okay.
you-
I never even heard of that.
yeah, blow-ups, and I turn people on to these that are hardcore collectors because I never had seen them before, but I was at a 99-cent store with my wife again, and I saw these and I lost my mind. But
Yeah, I just found them. Yeah.
the Kiss ones are crazy. Yeah, they're called blow-ups.
Yeah, they're $5.
Yeah, but
On
the
sale.
Kiss ones are gnarly if you can find them. So there you go.
Now, what if a Kiss thing has like Tommy Thayer and Eric
Yeah,
Singer?
that has happened. Like even these busts, when you look closely at them, the Ace Frehley is Tommy Thayer.
Really?
I mean, I have 2 on the other side. The Gene Simmons one's insane. This will be a whole nother show one day.
Yeah.
But the Gene Simmons one is amazing. So yeah, I love all that shit. But how can you not? I mean,
I know.
no matter what anybody says, they're easily one of the greatest bands of all time.
Yeah. What do you think about the Avatar thing that they want to do?
Oh,
I think
God.
for me it's dumb, but maybe I'm just an old bastard. I don't know. Like sometimes you got to start thinking maybe we're just stupid because the kids might love it. I don't
Yeah.
think our
Mhm.
generation's gonna really care for avatars because for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but even if I don't see Kiss again, the human Kiss is what I'd want to see if I did, and
Right.
so I think that's kind of the thing with music in general. Like if you get to see a band live, they're up there doing it, like
Mhm.
unless they got backing tracks, and that's happening too. But for me, if I can see a band play live and see a great guitar solo, great drum solo, like if I could see Tommy Aldridge again, like I did back in 1979,
Mm.
playing with Pat Travers, I'd be there in a second.
Yeah. Did
Here-
you get something? Right.
Yeah, here's my personal favorite that I have. Death, Scream Bloody Gore, bobblehead.
You got to take your screen off or something.
Yeah,
you can't
we
see anything
can't-
you're showing.
That's
Really?
pretty. I couldn't see it, but that's just awesome that there's even something like that out there. That's crazy.
Yeah, who'd ever thought Death would ever get a bobblehead of any kind? That's
You know what I chalk all that up to is that we're getting old, guys. Like seriously, like bands that we never thought would be in commercials, radio shows, and jingles. When you're watching
yeah.
a commercial on TV and you're like, "Holy shit!" That's like I was watching something and they were playing "March of the Crabs" by Anvil, and I couldn't believe it.
Really?
There it is.
And that's like I love that song. So it was like for a second I had to think about it. I'm like, that's freaking March of the Crabs by Anvil. Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Now I have
that's
something to
cool.
look forward to. A Gigi Allen plush doll. All right, cool. Let's do it.
Comes with
Now,
its
there
own
it is.
proceeds.
Yeah,
That's
there
pretty
it is.
amazing. No, I mean, for me, when I see anything with death, it's like I'm so happy for Chuck, even though he's not here anymore. The guy was fucking an awesome human.
Mm.
One of
Oh yeah.
one of the coolest musicians I've ever known. He was a really good guy. It's I don't think the name justifies how sweet of a person he was. He's totally like such a sweet dude. Like even to hear him talk, you're like, this guy's like the nicest dude. And then he's on stage and he's growling and he's in death. It's crazy.
No, I believe. I mean, hey, when I first heard Fear Factory, they scared the crap out of me so much. I love them, and I met Burton Bell. He was a sweetheart. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a point that I'll make, which is kind of crazy. Us, Hyrax, and Fear Factory practice in the same studio. We just have
oh
to
wow,
we just have to switch like, hey, what day are you guys in? And that kind of a thing. Because like, yeah, same room and everything. But when we go on tour, we have to kind of coordinate with each other what days to practice so they can practice and we can practice.
that's
Very
got to be
cool.
crazy living in Cali, where so many like of the classic, best, whatever you want to call it, like the metal bands that made such an impact on the music community, where they all come from. So it's like, you know, that's got to be kind of mind blowing. I mean, like in New York, with the hardcore scene, it's one thing, but Cali with the metal scene,
It's
it's
nuts. It's
I can imagine.
it's even gotten crazier just because everybody's in and out of bands or they're filling in or like we'll be on tour and we'll see guys that are in one band filling in for another. I mean, not that I'm against it. You got to do what you got to do, but like it's almost like we're inbred because there's so many bands, playing with each other and stuff. But
Has
it's interesting.
has California kind of run into the same problems that New York has, where it's like the clubs have kind of died out? I mean, we don't have CBs anymore. We don't have Lemoore anymore. Irving Plaza is probably like the last bastion of like, a venue where independent metal bands can go out and play in front of 1,000 people. But even then, it's like, you have to have representation to be able to even
Yeah.
play in a venue like that. Does California have like a similar situation going on?
Yeah, well, kind of, but there's still some spots. I mean, there's the smaller spots, and then there's obviously the theaters, and then once you go from there, you're getting bigger and bigger. But you just gotta. For us, it's been kind of cool because we still do crazy shit. Like we've done a couple of backyard parties, especially during the pandemic, which I thought we were nuts. We played the Whiskey A Go Go 2 nights, almost sold out 2 nights in a row there, and this was when the pandemic was going on. So it was like, are we going to be able to do the show? Is people are scared to do the show? Like we're backstage and like it's Hyrax and Evil Dead, and they're wearing masks. We're wearing masks. It's you don't know how to feel because it was the weirdest time because you want to trust people, but at the same time you don't. You know, even
That's
for
what
me
I don't like
writing
about the
this
whole
record,
thing
when
of what it
my
did.
guitar player, the whole thing about what?
The whole thing with the whole COVID thing of how it made people feel against each other, with the whole
It
mask
was sad.
situation. Yeah.
It was really screwed up.
Yeah.
It was something that I really am bummed I had to see because it made people act crazy.
Yeah.
And
And still
then
till today, people are still kind of like,
they're messed up.
Yeah.
I
Robert De
think
Niro walking outside with a mask on. You're outside.
I think it's some people have been programmed.
Yeah.
So they're gonna wear the mask for who knows how long because
Right.
they're just freaked out or I don't know, man. But I think at the same time you gotta live. Like you gotta figure out what kind of life you want to live. I'm not gonna tell anybody how to live because I know that's gonna backfire anyways. But I just say you've got to figure out what makes you happy and live that life and try not to be a dick.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
all.
this man. I
Yeah.
love his philosophy. It's awesome.
All you can do. I mean, I'm not a saint, but by far, but I still try to treat people the way I want to be treated. But I'm also one of those people. Once I get crossed, then I'm a huge dick. But I think that at the same time, at the end of the day, you still got to try to be a good person.
Yeah.
You never know what somebody else is going through. Like even if you're in a store, maybe somebody just lost their job, or maybe they had somebody die in their family. You got to try to be cool to people because people are like we were talking about musicians are sensitive. I think everybody's sensitive,
Oh yeah.
I agree. Leave the
Definitely.
sarcasm for your loved ones, not for strangers.
Yeah, true. No, that's true, man.
We had a co-host that used to be on the show with us. His name was we called him Uncle Saxon, but his name is John.
But
What?
I But before I forget again,
Okay, go
because
ahead.
we came around to it, I
Came
was
around,
going to
alright.
say
Go
yes,
ahead.
that was one of the best experiences because I never, well, I was like a baby, a toddler when you guys first came out in the '80s, so I didn't get to see it till you came back. But being in high school, seeing Hirax, I want to say it was somewhere between '02 and '04. I think Glenn was still on guitar, but
Yeah.
Katon, even after the show, Raging Show and all that, you came down the line and you shook every single one of our hands and talked to us a little bit. And that was just awesome to
Dude, thanks.
experience.
You know what? I seriously think it should be like that. Like even to this day, when we do shows, I go after we play and I thank the road crew and I thank the people that do the sound and the lighting. Uh, I just also because if I was that person, dude, at the end of the night when you're rolling up chords and everybody's gone home, it's nice to get a thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially these bands act like some of them act like divas up there throwing mics around. Not that I mean I like a show, but I also try to think about the guys that got to deal with the broken equipment and all that kind of shit. So I try to give a great show, but I also try to remember there's other people involved. And whether it's fans or other bands that you're playing with, I think you should just try to be cool, because we're all just trying to play music and we're all just trying to go to concerts and have a good time. I mean, I can't change the way the world is, but I can try to do the best to make the world that's around me better.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I think a lot of
And
people forgot how to do
thanks
that.
for bringing that up because that means a lot to me. I'll tell you real quick. The way I learned that was I went to see back to Tommy Aldridge. He's one of my idols, even though he's a drummer. But I went to see him play with UFO, Blue Oyster Cult, and Cheap Trick back in '79.
oh,
And
that's
after the show, I went to a 7-Eleven because I love slushies. And
Who
I went to go
doesn't?
get slushy and a Snickers candy bar because those are two, like, put those together. It's super sugar high. And
Yeah.
in walks Tommy Aldridge with two girls. And he was like getting some stuff. But I remember going, I got to say something. It's Tommy Aldridge. And I went up and I was 15. And I said,
Uh,
hey, I just saw your show at, San Diego. And he took time to talk to me. And he said hi and he shook my hand. And that stayed with me to this day. So
mm.
I just think that's probably he was the guy that influenced me to say, just be cool to everybody. I mean, this guy had two girls with him and he still took time to talk to a 15-year-old little rocker kid holding a program and a slushy and a Snickers candy bar. So if you can remember when somebody's treated you good, I think you should pay that shit forward.
And
Yeah.
I can confirm what he's saying is true because in Rudy Sarzo's book, Off the Rails, he confirmed that Tommy Aldridge had a girlfriend in every city in every state.
I
So,
believe it. I totally believe it, dude. That dude is one of the most hard hitting drummers, and he was a great showman. So I could see that being the case.
people say the drummers don't get tail. Not true. It's the keyboard players. Anyways, continue.
That's awesome.
So I was mentioning before, our old co-host Uncle Saxon. He's in this picture here with you. I don't know if you can see this, right?
That is awesome.
This is him on the well, it's on my right here. The guy with his arm
Yeah,
up.
this is your life. What's going
Yes,
on
from I
here?
guess it's from like what 1986 or something, Greg, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
he said it mid to late '80s in
that's
Portage, Wisconsin.
that's
He,
mind blowing.
Wayne, stop pointing at the armpit all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was doing that. I'm
No,
sorry.
you guys should. This is your life. You guys
Yeah.
are amazing.
He sent me more pictures. You want to see more?
I did not know. I wasn't prepared for this.
I'm
I
sorry.
thought
You're gonna get
Katon,
upset.
that was an amazing fro back in the day. I loved it. As a person that grows the Greek fro, I respect it.
right on. That's awesome.
Yeah. But he has some questions for you. Let me
Okay,
see if I can find him. Hold on a
let's do
second.
it.
I think he want to know about a Ron Govney story. Ron McGovney.
Oh man, many.
Phantasm.
Luckily, dude, I got to see those guys, and I always kind of crack up. I gotta say this real quick, but whenever they talk about the Big Four, I'm like, and I'm not trying to bum out because San Francisco, they take this shit serious. All right, I'm in LA. I'm proud to be in LA. I'm from LA, but San Francisco take it really serious, and I know that they adopted Metallica, but Metallica's from Los Angeles. So whenever they talk about the Big Four, I'm like, Metallica's from Los Angeles, Megadeth's from Los Angeles, and Slayer's from Los Angeles. So just let's put it that way. But Ron McGovney, the original Metallica bass player, was a friend even before they were really Metallica. They were actually called a few names before that. They were called Phantom Lord, they were called Leather Charm, and they were called Obsession. A lot of people don't know all this stuff, but Leather Charm was one of their names that was they were gonna use that. But then they started throwing other names around, and that's when Lars came, the Metallica thing came up. And I think also they had thrown the Metal Mania was good. I think maybe the name was actually from Metal Mania Ron Quintana. I think that was one of the names Metallica was laying around, and Lars liked it so much. That's kind of how that came about. But I got to see them. We actually played with them. It was Hirax when we were called Chaos, Metallica opening, us, and Striper. They used to be called Rock Regime, all on the same bill. And that's when I realized they had a drinking problem. I mean, I knew that they were saying,
Striper?
no, actually,
Oh,
Metallica.
okay.
Striper they've always been pretty much the way they are. They just were more yellow and black back. Even before they were called the Yellow and Black Attack, they were wearing yellow and black.
Right.
But Metallica had this room, which wasn't a room, it was basically a closet at this venue we played at. And there were so many bottles of vodka in there. That's when I kind of go, oh, they are alcoholica, like they really were waving that flag. And we would go to their house parties. And this is when Ron and James lived together. The original Metallica house was in Norwalk, California, and that's where Ron and James lived together. And so when I would go over to the house, they would just be pouring these things that we called kamikazes, which was vodka and another mix of something, and we just put it into a pitcher and drink it. And we were so young, we didn't even realize that stuff was so powerful. But when you're young, you're like invincible. But we did a lot of drinking, and then even more drinking when Metallica finally kicked him out, and then they got Cliff. And one of the agreements to get Cliff in the band was that they had to relocate to San Francisco. That's why they moved to San Francisco, because Cliff said he wouldn't join unless they moved to San Francisco. But Ron was a good guy. I think the problem is he's kind of like the Pete Best, the Beatles, the drummer, the guy before Ringo. Ron's kind of like that. Like he's had to live in that shadow. I mean, everywhere he goes, he sees a Metallica shirt. So it's kind of like I hate to say it, but kind of being tortured, man. Like you're basically they're the biggest band in the world. And you were just that close. Like but who's to say? You never know. They might not have made it as big if they didn't get Cliff. But I'm just saying there's a lot of what ifs. And so I think when he got out of Metallica, he just became more of a drinker. And that's when I actually started playing with him. We had a band called Phantasm together. But I will say this. I didn't really like to see the drinking so much because it made him a different person, which it does that with everybody, including
angry drunk.
Really good guy. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but Ron is a pretty awesome dude. I'm just saying what he had to deal with leaving a band like Metallica and just seeing that band skyrocket. I don't think it'd be easy for anybody.
No way. That's like Seven Angel takes off and I kick Lou out of the band. He's gonna.
You can't kick me out of the band.
I can kick you off the show. You're gone.
And I'm back.
What else did he has something else too. Hold on a minute, let me find it again. He has said, why do you think Hirax is so popular in Mexico?
I don't even know how that happened. I mean, what's crazy, we got a message to play there, and so we said, what the hell, we're from Los Angeles, nowhere scares us, because some people were telling us like, you guys are going to go to Mexico, you should be careful. And we're like, we live in Los Angeles, man. Like, I think we can go almost anywhere. But luckily when we travel, we always have somebody that's there that knows the language better than us. Like now we've gotten better because we've gone to Mexico a lot of times, and not that I speak great Spanish, but I understand a bit more than I did when I first started going there. And the first time they just came from all over the place to see us, and it just kept growing. Like every time we've gone back, we've built a bigger fan base, and we have a lot of loyalty there. And but that's kind of what made us go to other countries. Like after we did Mexico, then we got calls from South America, so we started going to more Spanish-speaking countries. But I really can't pinpoint why it's that way. I mean, even when we go to Spain, In Europe, when we do Spain, we usually do 4 shows just in Spain alone.
Wow.
And then South America, we played almost everywhere except for I think Uruguay. We've done Argentina, Venezuela, we've done Brazil, we've done Chile, Peru. Did I mention Peru? Peru. Just we've been all over South America, and I mean we've been down into the jungles. I mean all kinds of crazy shit. Like there should be a book one day because I mean people would not believe the stuff that we've done. I mean even this last trip we did Central America, and we did Guatemala, Honduras, and Ecuador. No, El Salvador. So we end up doing crazy stuff, but I think the reason we're able to do it is because we're kind of crazy ourselves.
Yeah.
And like I said, being from Los Angeles that makes you pretty much not really that scared of going really anywhere.
I had we've had members of Halloween on the show before, and I had the pleasure of talking with Sasha, the guitarist, and he said Latin America, he said gave Halloween the biggest reaction because he said there was nobody looking at their phones. He said everybody was singing and they were standing like the whole day. It was like during Rock in Rio. He said they were standing the whole day and they were still singing every song, every lyric along with the band. Would you say that Latin America sort of gives you that same response?
100%. I think what it is, dude, they just are glad to be alive. They're dealing with a different economic situation down there. They're also, they really have passion for heavy music. What's funny, you bring up Halloween. I saw them. We were coming in to play, and we had a night off. And the promoter goes, "Hey, I'm doing a festival with Judas Priest and Creator and Halloween and Arch Enemy." He's like, "You guys want to go?" We're like, "Yeah, we got the night off." So we went, and Halloween was amazing. But the thing is that the kids down there, man, they lose their minds for metal, and they really do sing along, and they chant in between the songs like it's not quiet. Like you'll play certain areas, and when you go on tour, like Japan, they're a little bit more polite, even though they go off. But the Japanese are a little bit more reserved. South America, it's the total opposite. They go fucking crazy. I'd say for us, the most crazy out of all of them is probably Colombia. Colombia's bar none. They're the loudest. They're the wildest. There's people going crazy from the moment we walk on stage.
Mm. Very cool. Greg, did you want to say something else?
I don't remember now.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Greg, you gotta jump in.
You got a great attention span, man.
Squirrel.
Something trigger.
He's got it. He's got it.
He got it now. He got
Now I
it.
remember. No, I was gonna. What I was gonna say was it's kind of crazy because at least to me it seems like now, especially talking to people, Facebook groups, message boards, things like that. Seems like this is the most popular Hirax has ever been in Europe, honestly.
It's freaking me out, to be honest with you, because I don't know what's going on. The last few months has been even crazier, and even in my hometown, we go to this store. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but Costco.
Oh yeah.
And now I call it Heavy Metal Costco because every time I go there, somebody goes, "Hey," they kind of get crazy. But I had a beautiful thing happen. It's just sad and good at the same time. My sister passed away like months ago, but I went
condolences to you.
I appreciate it. But I went to the hospital. Like we found out we only had like another day or two that she was going to be alive. So I wanted to make sure I got to see her before she died. And after that, we went to this place, Costco. I call it Heavy Metal Costco. And I was walking in, and this kid goes, "Hey, I love your band. Can I give you a hug?" I don't know if he could tell maybe I was a little sad or something, but it was like the perfect time. I said, "Sure, man." But I'm just saying, like this last few years, there's been a lot of that. Like I can feel the love, and I really do appreciate it. Like it's mind blowing because we've always done all right, but I have to agree with you. I've never been so busy. Like even this week, I've done an interview every day. I have another one scheduled tomorrow, and but I'm appreciative too. Like I don't take this shit for granted. I think that maybe that's what the fans might notice now. Like I'm really serious about it. I'm more focused on it than I ever have been. Like I used to kind of, like I said before, I used to let things kind of go and not get back to interviews and stuff. And
Mm.
I'm trying to change that because also I feel like I should be honored if people want to talk to me about my music. Who am I not to, pick up the phone or get on Zoom chat or Skype or whatever the hell they're using because there's always a new app that they're using to do these interviews. But
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
down to do it, and I'm trying to educate myself whenever there's new technology because there's always new technology. I mean, how many sites can you keep up with? I mean, there's Big Cartel, there's Big Bandcamp, there's the regulars like Instagram and Facebook, and those already take a lot of work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but I
Uh-huh.
appreciate, I really appreciate it, and I think the thing now, I just got to make sure that we continue to be a healthy band and get out there and tour. I mean, that's you can't go on the road if you're ill, and like so we're just trying to take a little bit better care of ourselves. I just recently turned 60, so it's more taxing on me, but I'm still a crazy bastard, and I'm down to do this.
Real cool. Yeah, I remember seeing you doing all these Facebook live shows or whatever, and you were going over your whole collection stuff like that. So I thought it was really cool because I really never saw interviews or anything with you, especially around that time. So it was really cool to see you finally, talking to your fans and stuff like that. So I'm glad that you finally did that.
That was really amazing because I was like, what am I gonna do? We're on lockdown. It's the
Yeah,
pandemic.
yeah,
And I started doing them, and they went really well. I mean, I kind of was abusing myself in the beginning, a lot of drinking because it's like I think a lot of people actually did that too. Because now when I go on the road, I've had people come up to me and go, "Dude, those live streams, you helped me get through the pandemic." And I'm like, "Dude, thanks for telling me that because that really does mean something to me." Like, a lot of guys were actually looking up music, so it was kind of keeping them from sitting around going crazy.
yeah.
And I think that's for me, music's always done that, but I think during the pandemic it helped a lot of people. And they could also watch those live streams later too. So that was kind of cool that I could actually save them where they could watch them. But I really learned a lot from those. And I really when I went back out on the road touring, I was pleasantly surprised how many people had watched them and just said, dude, you actually really helped me, man. And I also learned a lot. And I think that's the main thing, like with this music, just like me talking to you guys, you end up learning from everybody you talk to about music. I mean, nobody knows it all, so it's always good to
Right.
have a few different perspectives on music. Like even before we started this interview, we were throwing around some band names because that's just what we do. But I always try to listen to other people when they talk about music because you can totally learn. And most of the stuff that I have learned was from listening to other dudes that were maybe even older than me when I first started collecting records.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's always a band that you're never gonna either ever heard of or some new band that's out or whatever, and somebody's
Oh,
gonna know something.
sometimes you
Notice
can.
Whitechapel
Sometimes you,
hasn't got any love yet.
what was that?
I said, notice Whitechapel's the one band on our shirts today that hasn't gotten any love yet, but that's a joke. But listen, don't
They've
feel
been
bad
around for
about
quite a while.
that. I'm a big fan, but don't feel bad about drinking during the pandemic because if it wasn't for Fireball, I would have never have gotten through Tiger King. So that's
That's
all I'm gonna
right.
say.
Well, you know what's funny? Fireball's no joke, dude.
Oh,
Like,
I know.
if you're a kid, you better watch your ass because like you might start out to where it's all cool and it tastes like big red gum, but after a while it will catch you.
It
But
was
I
like
think
those.
go
It
ahead.
was
I'll
like those
tell you what.
the warhead
Oh,
candies.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
thought of them
But
as.
I also think during the pandemic, whatever people had to do, they had to do. And I learned from it too, though. I actually learned that I had to cut back on drinking because it wasn't actually at first, because they said, hey, 2 weeks, we're going to be on this pandemic for 2 weeks. I'm like, fuck, I could drink for 2 weeks. But after it went past
3 months
4,
later.
yeah, I was like, this is not cool. And like I said, I think that you start realizing, especially once you're getting a little bit older, that the time you have, man, you should do the best with the time you have. Like music's awesome. For me, I get a joy just that there's people that it makes them fucking happy.
Right.
Like we were one time walking through the airport in Belgium, and this dude yelled down from the top of these stairs. He said, "Thanks for bringing." What did he say? Thanks for bringing my wife's home. So I'm yelling at her. Thanks for bringing happiness to humanity. And that just was like that made it worth it just to be there for that. To hear this guy, you guys bring happiness to humanity is amazing, and that's the least we can do, and that's what I try to do through my music. That's really my biggest message, is just try to bring people together. Even, I mean, we have doctors and cops and punkers and meddlers and people that are, work in different industries come to our shows, and that's what it's all about, is just bringing people together.
Amen to that.
Is there any new bands that you like that are out right now?
Well, I'm also like, I don't know if I can consider myself a historian. I like old school shit too, but
Yeah.
newer. Fuck, let me
I
look
know you
what-
like I know you like the old school stuff, so I was just curious if there's like any new bands that you're really into.
Well,
Why is it
funny,
17?
the bands that I consider new are old now. So like,
Right, that's true. Yeah,
it's funny, like a new band to me is 15 years old.
yeah.
So I'll give you some though. I mean, I still think they deserve credit, even though they're kind of older new. But there's this band when we were on tour in Japan, and they were from Brazil, called Violator.
Okay, yep, I know what they are.
You look them up; they're pretty badass. And I only mention bands that I really believe in, and when I've seen them live, and they were pretty badass. Just remind me of the old thrash shit, but with a extra charge up their ass, probably because they're 20, 30 years younger than I am. But they were really good. There's a band from Ireland called Gamma Bomb.
Yes, yep.
Oh,
Heard of them too. Yep.
I like those kids. I'm trying to think. I gotta look around the room. Oh, there's a band from Colombia. They're more of a death metal band, but they're called Massacre.
Okay. Haven't
So-
heard that
Oh,
one.
yep, yeah, I know that.
And they're pretty freaking good. And because the travels, I always try to keep an eye out for bands when we travel. And then there's this band from Argentina. They're called Malone, not Post Malone, because that's a hip hop artist. But there's a band called Malone, and they're from Argentina, and they're more kind of like early Metallica meets early Pantera, but they're freaking great. So I always try to, keep an eye out for something a little bit like that. But on the old school tip, I'm an old school record collector. So whether it's Alice Cooper or Rory Gallagher or Thin Lizzy, I'm always looking for that kind of shit. But if I'm in an area where there's good thrash metal records, like the last time I was in Norway, I picked up some great Celtic Frost shit and Nosebleed. I think that's the place that burned down recently. But there's this incredible record store in Norway called Nosebleed, and
Okay.
that's why I was like, I found this Celtic Frost record on the ground, like people were stepping on it. I'm like, dude, this is a
Really?
collection. I mean, what the?
What?
I ended up getting it for a great price. It wasn't even really messed up. It's just I think it fell on the ground and nobody. I'm like, what are you guys doing? First
Wow.
first pressing of Morbid Tales, and I brought that home.
Wow.
So,
Nice.
That's awesome.
and it's sometimes I like to buy a band's record when I'm in their country. So I bought like a Dark Throne record. I was in Norway. I'm like, I gotta buy a Dark Throne record if I'm in
Oh
Norway.
yeah.
Very
I
cool.
still love going to live shows. I mean, I remember at the time Shadows Fall had just released a One Blood on Century Media. They did a tour behind it. They were opening for it was supposed to be Cataclysm, Dismember, and Christian. But Cataclysm, for some reason, couldn't get over the border from Montreal that day, so they missed the first date of the tour. So it was just Dismember and Christian, and I liked what I heard from them. They were this Brazilian death metal band.
They're
saw-
amazing.
Saw them at the Wetland Preserve. I'm leaning on the wall, and all I'm feeling from the wall is, and I'm like, this place is about to just like dilapidate on itself. It was insane, but they were great.
Yeah,
I become a fan of theirs.
I forgot to mention them too. We were in Tijuana not too long ago. We did some shows down there with them, and they're, I like when I see a band where I'm like, they're the real deal. And,
Oh yeah.
Chrisium's the real deal. I don't know if you guys are hip to their shit, but
Hmm.
I'd suggest checking them out too. They're really heavy, 3-piece. What's crazy is they're all brothers. All three of them. It's like three brothers in the same band. They're
Yeah,
amazing.
I respect that intensity because it's like it comes off live as good as it does on record.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, luckily I get to see quite a few good bands when we're out touring, and if I can get out and check out some of the bands, I do. And Chrisium was a pleasant surprise to see live. Amazing. Good,
But I'm
good
not the only
call.
one who knows them.
Check 'em out.
Good call, man. Good call on that one.
Thank you.
But they're another one of those bands. They've been around for like probably 20 years, believe it or
Yeah.
not. So we're showing our age, man. We're like, that's a new band. They're not new.
Hey, just for men. All right. Have no shame in it.
You mentioned Alice Cooper. What's your favorite Alice Cooper album?
Oh, Billion Dollar Babies by far.
All right, good
I
one.
mean, there's a lot of great records. This one, see, now you're gonna make me start reaching for shit. But
Oh boy.
just picked this one up recently.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I got that
Um,
one. I got that one signed by somebody.
Michael
I forgot who
Bruce.
that- I don't remember.
Neil
My
Smith.
friend gave it to me. I don't remember.
No, I mean, it's like I don't think when you're a record collector, you'll never be done.
No.
That's the sucky thing
No.
about collecting, because
Do you have doubles like of like you have like a CD and then you have it on vinyl too and stuff like that?
yeah, I'm an idiot like that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
But I do it only. I don't do a ton of it because I think it's insane. But I
Yeah.
have friends that do it all the time. But I do it for records that I feel like you could bury me with those records. So
Right.
I can think of them off the top of my head. Hendrix is kind of the guy that like was my gateway drug to Sabbath. Like it went from like Hendrix, Sabbath, then Lizzie, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So Hendrix, there's a record called Smash Hits. I have that on vinyl and I have it on CD.
Mm.
Certain records I have to have like that. But I wouldn't suggest every record. Like I have the first Iron Maiden on CD and vinyl.
Mhm.
You know, I think after a while like, you can become addicted. Like, and I
It's
think
insane.
we all have that problem. But I almost felt like I should start a club for people to calm them down on record buying because you can like. I think what happens is you get obsessed.
You do. It's insane
Yeah.
because especially like with Iron Maiden, because they keep re-releasing all the albums. So I have like all like the originals, and then I have the remasters, and they remaster them
And the
again. Then I have the
deluxe.
vinyls,
And the
I've
deluxe
got-
versions,
the deluxe
and a lot of
versions.
The deluxe versions are just to set you up to get you again
That's
because
it.
they usually include a bunch of stuff
The
that's
little
all-
figurines I gotta get. So yeah.
And then like these box sets, like there's this box set is insane, and
Oh
like,
yeah, I got
Oh,
that. Yeah.
yes.
Good.
Yeah.
like I love early Def Leppard. I'm I don't care what anybody says, man. Even up to the third record, because a lot of people don't know this. Even on the third record, some of those songs are Pete Willis songs, and
Oh, yeah, they are.
like, dude,
Okay.
like I'm a huge like I'm trying. That's the dude. If I do interviews, I'm trying to track Pete Willis down.
He doesn't
Yep.
do interviews, unfortunately. He's very reclusive
Yeah,
because
he's like
he
the
respects his
ghost.
sobriety. So I'm like, you know what? Rather have a living Pete Willis than one that, would ever want him to go back that dark path. But, it's funny you bringing up Def Leppard because I, I'm a huge Steve Clark fanboy. I mean,
I
he
get
was
it.
one of my guitar heroes.
Yeah.
And those first three Def Leppard albums, quintessential listening. But I just thought it was funny when Joe Elliott recently said that Def Leppard were never a metal band and never meant to be lumped into the Nawab stuff. But I'm just like,
he's an idiot.
I'm like, you've played with Judas Priest and Ozzy Osbourne and the
Yeah,
Scorpions
he's gotta
in
stop that.
Dortmund. It's like, what's the
It bums me
shame?
out when guys do that crap.
I mean,
It's like okay,
It's like they're a
why
bit
don't
ashamed to
why don't
say
you
it.
just
You know?
say he should just say he took the paycheck. Just admit it, dude. You took the paycheck. It's like the Scorpions. I love the Scorpions, but they took the paycheck. Just admit it. Like
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people will be way cooler with you if you go, listen, we started making crazy money and then we bought fucking crazy houses and then we're like, well, we got to keep these houses up. So they kept writing radio songs and that's the fucking truth of the
Hey.
matter. But when you look at a band like, say, Priest, even though they've written some stuff that, we all can say, that was kind of a stinker, they
Nostradamus.
still stayed heavy.
Rental fucking
Even
guy.
when they got all synthesized out with their guitars, they still were a bit heavy. But at least they came to their senses. And even the last couple of records are better than most of the bands at their age, if you think about it.
oh yeah,
Mm.
So
Hey.
I just think that at a certain point, you got to be honest. I mean, I think that's the coolest thing about metal. You do better if you're honest about the shit.
I agree with that statement. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Pyromania and Metal Health were my gateway metal albums.
All good.
So
I think everybody's got stuff like that in their collection, or they're not musical, like musical. Because once don't get me wrong, I started out I wanted only the heaviest shit. I told myself I was only gonna be listening to the heaviest, darkest shit forever. And then it's like wine or anything that you get a taste for. You go, well, I like Uli John Roth and I like Yngwie Malmsteen, and they do melodic shit.
Mhm.
After a while, you start picking up on other stuff. I mean, I like Racer X, and that's not typical heavy metal, but the guitar playing's amazing. You
Street
know,
Lethal was pretty vicious though.
oh yeah, yeah. But I'm just saying they also had moments of melodicness. But I think as you get better as a musician or even just a music fan, you start picking up on different styles of music, whether it's darker sounding bands, like say a band like Candlemass.
Mhm.
It's not for everybody, but once you start getting into it, like I never thought I'd listen to a band that slow.
Yeah.
But then once you get into them, you're like, these guys are amazing, or
Oh, yeah.
Trouble from Chicago. Like they're not the fastest band on the planet, but they're amazing. So your taste evolves. And I think it also comes with age too. Like I think when you're younger, you're just more wound up. You know, you're a different person. I mean, you're gonna go through stages in life anyways. Everybody does. But I think that what's great though, there's always time to put on some heavy shit. Like I can
Yeah.
always dig into my heavy bag, but I listen to a lot of different music. I even listen to classical. I love Luciano Pavarotti. He's an opera singer. He's one of my all-time favorite singers.
Hmm. Wow.
And then comes Crowbar to slow all of it down even more.
Yeah, and you know what's great about Crowbar, dude? Kirk is an amazing dude. Like
Great
that.
songwriter.
Yeah, and he really knows music, and he's got the passion. Like me and him became friends through the pandemic, and he saw some of my posts, and he's into Thin Lizzy, so we fucking like bonded, and I got to know him, and he's a really special person, man. Like that dude is the real deal. Like I like when I get to meet people like that are really coming from the right place.
Yeah.
What you get with Crowbar, you get the real deal. Like that guy is no joke, and he really loves music. Talk about a Kiss fanatic. That dude loves Kiss.
Hmm.
So yeah, hails to Crowbar for sure, man. But I feel like
Absolutely.
talking to you guys, I'm talking to people that get it. Like you guys obviously have done your homework.
This is what
We're-
we do, man.
We're fans first.
Yep.
Yeah, same here. Like no matter what would be going on with Hirax, I'm always gonna be a fan because I grew up on this shit, man. Like it actually probably saved my life. I mean, I probably don't even realize that because I really have, even to this day, my wife will be like, do you really just want to stand and listen to music? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
but like you have to also go out once in a while too. But music for me was something that was kind of like my safety zone, like
Right.
even when I was younger, I was really weird. I used to lock myself in a closet with a turntable and listen to records. I was
Wow.
that into it. I mean, I think everybody's got that. If you're a real fanatic, like even like now, I realize this is something I think music fans should do more of. Listen to your favorite albums with headsets on, and you'll see it way differently.
Huge difference. Yep.
You pick up shit that you didn't like when you're listening to it through big speakers. That's one thing, but with the headsets on, you hear finger slides on the frets. You hear vocals or somebody talking that you didn't even know that was there because the headsets really get you to focus on the music. So, like my newest thing recently is listening to records that not just any records, but a lot of the records that I already loved. Listening to them again with headsets on and just really paying attention because you'll hear shit that you're like, I forgot that was there, or I didn't even realize that was there.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when they like pan things like to the left and the right, like voices or something like that. You never really hear it or notice it sometimes when you're not listening in headphones. And then when you put them on, it's like, wow, I never realized
Well,
that.
there's this box set that came out. There's a bunch, but there's one called Rock Legends for Thin Lizzy. And
Okay. Yep. I have that one.
It's an 8 CD box set.
Yep.
If you listen to that fucker with headsets on, it'll blow your mind. Like even there's demos of like, Are You Ready to Rock?
Yeah.
And there's the demo for Emerald. I highly suggest listening to the Emerald demo. It's insane. Like different lyrics, what he was writing about. There's more to the song than people realize. A lot of those songs Phil had a lot more lyrics written for those. So there's a whole disc just of demos.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
I love that band. You got a favorite? What's your favorite album of that Thin Lizzy?
uh, It's
There's
kind of
no
tough.
wrong answer.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
no, it
tough
really
because
isn't.
for me, from Nightlife on, I felt like that's when they started getting their groove as Nightlife because there's a
Yeah.
song on there called "It's Only Money,"
Hmm.
and the riff on that song is just badass, and so they just get better and better. But between obviously Jailbreak because Emerald's on on that record, and Emerald's that could be played at my funeral. That would be like if they're walking with my casket. I hope they're playing Emerald because that song's amazing.
That's a badass song to go out to.
Yeah. But also Black Rose has got a lot of great songs on it. That record's kind of underrated, even though a lot of Thin Lizzy fans love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that song's got crazy good tracks on it,
And
man.
it's got Gary Moore on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And dude, him and Phil, if they could stop fighting like brothers, that band could have been even more insane. But I also like Thunder and Lightning, and that's John Sykes. But that record's got Cold Sweat on it. There's a lot of good stuff on there. But even when you go some of the records that weren't as big, like the Renegade records got some great stuff on
Love
it.
that album. Yeah.
Chinatown's got some great songs on it, you know.
That's a grower.
Yeah, it's some of them you got to listen to, and you're like, I fucking the genius. Like, I'm not just saying this, but Phil really was an amazing songwriter and
It
lyricist.
was.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah.
insane. Like, that's not a typical band. Like, the thing I think about Thin Lizzy, when it finally hits them right, because some people need to listen to that band more. Like, even if you listen to Bad Reputation, that
My
track
favorite.
alone, the power of Bad Reputation, that track is unreal. But
Yeah.
I like some of the deeper shit. There's a song called Genocide,
Yeah.
Angel of Death.
Yeah.
Angel of Death is
That's
amazing.
great.
And that was written before Slayer's Angel of Death. There's a lot of Warrior. There's a song called Fighting.
Yep.
The record Fighting's great too. There's a song on there, I think it's near the end. Ballad of a Hard Man, I think it is.
My favorite, if you forced me, well, Bad Reputation's my favorite album. That one's a 10 out of
Good
10.
shit on
But
that record.
Opium Trail.
That's a great
Yeah.
track too.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing about them though. There's a lot of deep cuts, and
Oh yeah.
but I think the thing is that people once they really start going through the thing about Thin Lizzy is the catalog is deep. Like I said, if you go through the catalog, there's a lot of bands that put out a lot of records. But like I said, if you go from Nightlife till Thunder and Lightning, go through that catalog, it's stellar. But they're also a different band. They're not your typical band, man. Thin Lizzy's got their own thing. And that's pretty amazing when you can establish yourself like that. They're heavy, but they're almost scarily romantic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
I-
like
I-
you know what I mean? Like
Yes, because all his lyrics are like poems, and it's just yeah. What were you saying,
like
Luke?
you could also romance a woman with those
Yeah,
records. I
yeah,
mean,
especially with
kind of
S&M.
insane. Like it's the heaviest romantic music there is Thin Lizzy, if you think about it, I mean, and I'm not ashamed to say that, but they really are. Like next time you listen to Lizzy, listen how romantic some of that shit is. Like
Right.
Phil was a kind of a romantic dude, I guess, but
And
Any
I
of the
think a lot
girls
of
want a
people,
little more Irish in them.
I
yeah.
still think
And I
that
think a lot of
makes them a
people,
special band.
right? I think a lot of people write them off too because all they hear is boys are back in town, or sometimes the cowboy songs.
We're
on the
talking about
radio.
radio. I mean,
Right. But a
Yeah,
lot of
gotta
people
go
don't
there.
go beyond that. And then, like me, like it took me a long time to get into Thin Lizzy because I really never thought of them more than just those two songs. And then I finally got into them. Like, holy shit, I missed out on all of
And,
this.
and
for
that's
so long.
okay though.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beauty of that band because I think that's still going to go on for a long time. Like
Oh yeah.
a lot of people miss them, and then
Yeah.
they go back and they're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And then the live album too. Like they have a lot of. What's funny about them? Okay, Live and Dangerous is one of the greatest live albums ever. But the
I think we
funny
all
thing
agree with
is,
that.
if you go through and find more live records, they were one of those bands that almost never had a bad live night. They're fucking pretty incredible. Almost all the live. I have a lot of bootlegs of them, and almost every single one of them I love.
Mm.
I have a funny story to tell you about how I got into Thin Lizzy. So 2005, my wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, we go to vacation in Ireland. We went on a tour.
Wow.
So this was our Second night, and we were in Killarney, and we were having drinks with the locals at night as the tour wound down, and we were, just relaxing, having a couple of pints, and all of a sudden the topic of music came up, and one of the locals goes, "Ah, Phil Lynott, that man was a god among men," and he said he called him the greatest Irish songwriter ever.
Pretty much.
And here I'm thinking like a dumb Yank. I asked him, "Oh, what do you think about Bono?" And he
We
said,
got bummed out.
Fuck him. You Yanks could keep him."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I realized the greatness of Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, they really are. And he pretty much had great lineups the whole time, even with Snowy White. Now, I'm not a huge Snowy White guy, but even he's great. So it's like,
Yeah.
look at the guitar players, and Robo doesn't get enough credit, because if you look at the records that Robo was on, he's on a lot of great Thin Lizzy records. He was just too young. He was a young crazy fucker. They had to get rid of his ass because he got hurt before one of their tours fighting in a bar,
Yeah.
But
And
Robo's
the album he did with Motorhead was great too.
Oh yeah. I think by that time though, he probably was partying too much, because he wore some weird shit when he was with Motorhead.
But there's nothing wrong with ballet shorts and slippers.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's what's great. Most people, once they get into Lizzy, they learn that there's a recipe there that's a very awesome recipe. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. I had a lot of fun on this show, Katon. I'm
So
glad
did
you
I,
finally
man.
got to come on here, man.
Yeah,
No,
it was an
I'm
honor to
glad
have
I-
you, man.
I'm glad I did, just to talk to you three maniacs anyways, and you guys all have different perspectives, and that's really cool.
We all just love
You guys
music,
are not the same, for sure. I mean, obviously there's stuff that you like similar, but you guys have your own thing.
Oh,
and
we all very different opinions on this show.
it's a cool combination. The guy that even said, talked to me about doing this, he said that this is a really great show, and I'm not blowing smoke up you guys' asses, because I'm not that kind of dude.
Be careful. Ben lies a lot, so I don't know.
So no, man, this is really cool, and I'd like to do this when the full record comes out. I'd like to come back, and then I can talk to you guys
Sure.
more. And I
We'd
can
love to
announce-
have you.
Definitely, we
announce
really
who the-
appreciate
Love that.
the producer is, because it's really important. And like I said, I guarantee after talking to you guys, you have some of his records in your collection. So I know I this is the first time I've kept my mouth shut. Like my wife's the only one who knows, and my band doesn't even know, because I said this,
Really?
and I was like, I got to keep this thing quiet, because these guys are gonna go crazy if I want to. Main thing is I want to get it finished first, then announce it, because it's like, bands always say stuff and then it doesn't get done, or it doesn't come through, and I just want to make sure
Right.
that this is finished.
It's
I
a
had
definite
pleasure.
process.
Yeah, it is a process. It's like somebody painting a painting. It's like, seriously, there's so much that goes on to it. Even getting all the files over to them, because now it's not like the old days where you would ship reels. We had to make sure the files were sent to him through a download transfer system where they could suck all the files down, and then all the different guitar parts. And we did a lot of work on this record, so he had a lot to put together. It's like a puzzle.
Hmm.
But thanks for taking the
Can't wait to
time
hear
out. Another thing I'd like to say, this wasn't a typical interview, so you guys made me feel really comfortable to even talk about other stuff. And I think all that stuff's good. I think that people that are tuning in, they want to learn some shit too. And maybe
yeah.
we might have turned a bunch of people on to Thin Lizzy. Who knows? And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I hope so. And when can people order the EP?
The EP should be out. I think the official date will be August 1st. But I think they're gonna the label that's doing it, and that's up on the internet. I think it's called Do Media.
Yeah.
But every country pronounces shit differently. So I know I'm sounding like, speaking a Yank, I sound like a Yankee right now.
I think it's Dementia Records.
Yeah, Dementia. There you go. Thank you. You corrected me on that. And I'm the one who set up the deal. I should know how to say it.
But they just let you go.
Yeah, basically they're gonna have a pre-order link. And I definitely suggest it to everybody, not just because it's my band, but it's also done awesome. Like, I want a copy just to stare at it, because they're gonna do like high gloss. It's not gonna be cheaply done at all. These guys they're putting love in it. That's why we're working with them. because these guys are not doing it half-assed. This is like we're not just rushing it out. Like I've been on the computer with them the last 3 days, just going back and forth. Like I said, going over and making sure that they're spelling even the musicians' names correctly, because nobody wants to see their name spelled wrong on a record.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure when it was going to go on sale because you only got so many copies. I want to make sure I get one.
Yeah,
so.
it should be out August 1st, but I think they'll probably have a pre-order link for it.
Yeah.
And I know that there's 500 copies only being made, and all of them, they're going to be yellow and red transparent vinyl.
Very
Nice.
cool. Hulk Hogan colors. Great.
Yeah.
Brother.
Hey,
Sorry.
but thank you guys, seriously.
Thank you
and
very much.
Thanks,
Let's
Kate.
definitely talk again and stay metal.
We
And,
always will.
thanks for putting me on point with some of those photos and remembering that we had met before and stuff and shake hands and all that stuff matters to me, so I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Very
no
cool,
problem. We
very
appreciate
cool.
you, man. Thank you.
And,
problem,
and,
thanks.
and hopefully I'll meet all of you guys one day.
I hope so. Hopefully you get to New York. Oh, you actually are coming to New
Brooklyn
York.
Monarch.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna
From
send
Brooklyn.
you guys a message once everything's totally happening. I think that's in October, but
Okay.
I'll make sure that you guys know, and it'd be awesome to meet you.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really had a lot of
Thank you,
fun.
sir.
My
Thank
pleasure, dude. I think we almost did 2 freaking hours, man.
We almost did. We can go. I can go for. Oh, I have my radio show going now too, so we can just go forever. But I'm sure you got other things to do.
Yeah,
so.
but hey, thanks. And also when you play the new stuff, play whatever you want. I know there's 4 tracks. You go ahead and pick
Yeah, I'm
whatever.
gonna play Relentless. It's coming up soon.
Awesome. Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Thank you very
Good night,
much.
Katon.
Thanks,
Thank
Kate.
you.
All right. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
we'll see you.
All right. And thank you guys for watching the show. We had a lot of fun, and you can hit subscribe right here on YouTube, and we will see you guys next week. All right. And join me right now. I'm on freeworld.fm playing music. I'm going to play the new Hirax song. So get on freeworld.fm and listen in. All right. We'll see
That's
you next
our
week.
review and severedangel.com.
SeveredAngel.com. Goodbye,
Cheers.
Skyward.